Hello and welcome to another edition of Health Matters. Because your health matters, we are committed to bringing you quality programming that brings you great information, and that information is only as great as it is when you take action on it. Hi everyone, my name is Anna Marie Sinatra from Sinatra Solutions and the host of Health Matters, which I'm actually your only host today. Ava Samarco from Health Focus couldn't be with us today. And today I want you to know I have a very special guest here. I have Ken Hansen, who is the father of Amanda Hansen. And I'm sure you're going to recognize her picture and you're going to recognize that name because I have a wonderful special story to share with you today. So be sure that you get your pens and paper ready to take down some very important information, and you might want to get your box of Kleenex ready too, because you will be moved, I promised you. But before we get started, you know I have to thank my sponsors who help to keep this program on the air. We are very grateful for Maddie Mattress from Mattress and More, who's educating us on the variety of different mattresses and how so many of us are so sensitive to some of those chemicals in that mattress. So it's really important to know what your mattress is made out of and how to get a good night's sleep and why that's so important. And we want to thank Dr. Frank Mascaro from Western New York Imaging Group, who is committed to bringing you quality, state-of-the-art, cutting-edge imaging equipment that you may need someday. So we're grateful for his commitment to the community and to this program. And I want to give a special thank you to Joe DeMarco from Wings Flights of Hope, where they offer free medical flights and compassion flights to people in their time of need. And they're really trying to reach out to veterans, and compassion flights, they're not just for children who need medical emergency, who have a medical emergency. So make sure you check out his website too and give them a call. So without any further ado, I have to say I do not have my Kleenex ready, and boy, I'm sure I'm going to need them. I am really touched and moved that Ken Hansen has been following us and watching the program, and we had a conversation, and it just touched my heart so much. Before I introduce Ken, I'm going to just say one of the things that we talked about was when tragedy hits, so many times we get overwhelmed by that tragedy, and it could paralyze us. We get depressed, we don't take action in our lives, we can really get sunk. And Mr. Hansen is the example of what I'm always talking to you guys about. You know, you might remember that Charlie Brown cartoon where he's walking around with his shoulders slumped over and he's all sad and depressed, and Lucy's there telling him, Charlie Brown, you know, you don't have to do that. You can pull your shoulders back and walk like this, and so that you'll feel better. And he says, no, but then I won't get any attention and I won't feel bad, and you know, if I don't walk around looking like this. Well, what is the moral of that story? Is that we get to choose every day how we respond to the things that occur in our lives. And yeah, stuff happens every day, and it's horrible things sometimes, but what we do with what happens in our lives is what matters. And Mr. Ken Hansen has taken a horrible tragedy and really dedicated himself into making a difference in our community. Welcome, Ken.
Welcome, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for being here. I can't even imagine. I've lost quite a few people in my life. I hate that word, who've made their transition. And I know how difficult it is, but I can't even imagine what that would be like to have a child.
It's the worst feeling you can ever imagine. It's something you don't plan for, you don't expect, and it's something you really never ever want to deal with.
So tell us a little bit about what happened for those people who, you must have been on Mars if you didn't already hear about it. What happened to your daughter?
Amanda, it was January 17th of 2009, and Amanda wanted to go to a friend's house for a sleepover. We thought she earned it. She had a busy week. She was working a lot, so we thought it would be a nice idea to let her just go and relax. You know, so we drove her over there. about 8:30 in the morning, you know, I was out snow blowing, and my wife called me in and said, somebody from the house called, Amanda's sick. Can you please come over and get her? So we didn't really make too much of it at that point. We didn't just figure maybe upset stomach, you know, where the kids eat candy and junk all night. So when we got there, we pulled up behind the ambulance, and we saw Amanda in the back of the ambulance doing CPR on her, and we kind of knew at that point something was definitely wrong, and that we knew actually our lives were changing right at that moment. The policeman just came up to us and said, just please get to Mercy Hospital, and you know, we'll meet you there. And when we got to Mercy Hospital, and as they continued trying to, you know, bring Amanda back to life, they came and finally told us that it was carbon monoxide poisoning in the house. So, you know, once we found out what it was, you know, it was a shock.
A shock and such a tragedy, because it could be something that could be avoided. That's what's so sad about it. It's all of those who leave us too soon, it's a tragedy. But when it can be avoided, so there was carbon monoxide in the house, no detectors at that time.
No, they had no CO detectors in there, so they didn't know what was going on. You know, they had just had a new boiler installed, and it was installed improperly.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, because of that, you know, the work not being done properly has cost the life of my daughter.
Wow, wow. Can't even imagine. And so let's take it from there and talk about, if you can, jump ahead. I know that it had to be a lot of pain and struggle that you went through, but let's get to the how, I don't even know if any of my little cliches, how you turn lemonade out of lemons, or trying to make the best out of a tragedy. None of it really fits, because I'm so moved by this story too, and as you're seeing Amanda's picture. But you chose, after a certain amount of time, you chose to get active. I can't even imagine. I don't know what the difference would be for someone who gets stuck, and not blaming anyone or saying you should or shouldn't be any particular way, but how did you, maybe that's where to go, how did you find the strength to move from that experience to what you're doing today?
It was actually one of Amanda's teachers that had got me motivated when I knew I had to do something. For the first week after Amanda passed away, we were just in shell shock. I mean, I can't even explain it. I mean, honestly, there was just no life after that. I mean, I didn't care if I lived or, you know, what happened, anything. And I had received a phone call from Amanda's teacher, and she has a little daughter that wanted to have a sleepover. And she said, you know, she told the child absolutely not unless your father goes out and buys CO detectors. So she begged the father. He went out. He bought, you know, 2 of them. They set them up. 3 hours later, they had the fire department there with high levels of CO.
Oh my goodness.
So she had called me in the morning about it, told me everything, and she said, she goes, you know, she felt terrible telling me, but she goes, I need you to know, because of you, you saved my family.
Oh.
And because of your tragedy, you know. And it hit me that afternoon, honestly, that I said, I got to do something. You know, I said, and I, you know, I went to Amanda's urn, and I talked to her about it, and I promised I would never let another child die.
Wow.
So that's, you know, where I pretty much got started, you know, a week after. And the first thing I actually did was called Assemblyman Mark Schroeder, and I said, Mark, we needed to get a law, and we did it. You know, it was the fastest law passed in New York State. So.
Amanda's Law.
Yeah.
Amanda's Law, and that was in 2000.
2011.
2011.
Yeah, that's when we got the law passed.
Wow.
So, you know, it was, you know, and we just started the foundation, and right from that point on, we just been nonstop committed, you know. So it's a lot of work, and it helps. It helps a lot of the pain. So it hurts too, but it helps.
It really does. It's one of the things that it kept me going during the sudden loss of my dad. My mom suffered a little bit longer, and they were both young. They were 60, of course not as young as Amanda, but still young, 60. And I think the only thing that kept me going was the responsibility for lots of different things that occurred for me to stay busy. You know, at the time I thought, how am I going to do all this? But that busyness is what kept my mind outside of the tremendous amount of grief that was there. So I can just imagine that would be a driving force for you.
That's how it is. I mean, with the foundation, it's 24/7 for me. I stay up all night thinking of ideas, what I can do next, what I can make better. You know, I mean, it's constant. You know.
Wow.
So it's a struggle, but.
And talking about what can be better, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, for those that are depressed or feeling sad about something that has occurred in your life, you are always looking for volunteers. Let's talk a little bit about that, because all of our organizations can't even exist without volunteers.
Right. Well, I mean, we're always looking for new help to help us, you know, come up with some fundraising ideas, you know, to run events for us, and you know, whatever it takes to help raise money for us. I mean, we go out. I mean, so far our foundation has passed out over 15,000 CO detectors.
Wow.
It's a lot of money. We raise the money ourselves, and we go to Home Depot and we buy our own CO detectors. We don't get them free. We go out and buy them.
Don't they even give you a discount, I hope?
We get a little discount, but we do it that's how we do it. So we make sure that that we're trying to get every home a CO detector. So it takes a lot of help and it takes a lot of funding to do it, and that's why we're always looking for new ideas. You know, if people have ideas to do stuff, you know, we love to hear about it and, you know, get them involved in doing it with us. And
for every event that you do, I'm sure you need a whole slew of volunteers as well, because you do a variety of different events. You've done you do things for the scholarship program, for the golf tournament. I see that you had a wine tasting, wine and beer tasting. Was on your beautiful website. And your website is just amazing. I want to really encourage people to go there. And I also found you on Facebook. I think that we became Facebook friends. Yep. That's a really great tool too to stay connected. So what are some of the other things that you do throughout the year?
The biggest thing that I like to focus on is doing the events, where I go down to different places, to churches, schools, fire halls, wherever I'm asked to go, I go, and I like to talk about the dangers of carbon monoxide and educate the people and teach them about the dangers of this silent killer. So it's that's what I want to stay focused on, and also doing is I want to take Amanda's Law federal. So, I'm working with Senator Schumer to work on that right now. So I want to stay focused on that stuff and let my board and volunteers, whatever, just plan their own fundraisers.
That's smart. That's smart. And that's a good point, too, because I think I read on your website that there's only 2 other states that have Amanda's Law?
That have there's
or a CO2 law?
Yeah, there's about 20 states right now that have enacted carbon monoxide laws. Amanda's Law is the strongest in the country. California had just actually enacted Amanda's Law over there, and they went with the same guidelines and everything as us. So they got the same setup as we do in New York State now. We also took Amanda's Law over to the UK. We were invited by the British government. They flew us out there, and they flew us to Scotland, Wales, to London. They flew us all over, and we had Amanda's Law enacted in Scotland and London.
Wow.
Wales we're still waiting for, but so Amanda's Law has gone national, and so right now I just want to get it federal here, though. So that's my goal.
And so, what are some of the specifics in Amanda's Law that it sets it apart from some of the other states that have laws in place?
Well, the biggest thing with Amanda's Law, it requires all dwellings, all buildings, homes, everything. It requires them all to have CO detectors. And I mean, that includes hotels. Hotels have to have a carbon monoxide detector now every 15 feet down the hallway. It requires new builds that CO detectors are in every room now.
Every room?
Every room, every bedroom, the living room, basements, everywhere. So we're pretty strict with a lot of stuff that we have done. And actually, a lot of the towns even went a little bit step further, adding their own little codes to it also.
Really?
So, you know, it's like a lot of towns do now. Put a new hot water tank in, they have to install a CO detector with it. So, I mean, they all come up with actually a little more codes to add to Amanda's Law to help. So, it's, you know, so in the last 4 years, we've done a lot to get the awareness out, and it's working.
Wow,
So.
wow. And I was surprised too when I read, I'm not sure if it was the Facebook page or the website, but you talked about the CO detector being, after a certain amount of years, it may not even be working right. And I thought, I think I have one. I remember when this happened. And I went out and I bought one. I have one, and I have a almost 2,000 square foot house. And I keep it closest to the basement. That's what they said, it's in the kitchen, so that if it detects anything, it will go off. And I'm sure my neighbors could even hear that going off. But maybe you might want to hold that up and talk a little bit about what's important in a detector, and how many years they do last, how to test them, and to my surprise, how many you need in a house.
Right. The biggest thing I like to tell people, first of all, with the CO detector is they only have a 5-year lifespan. Nobody knows that. They think they're just in there forever.
Yeah.
It's
Guilty.
not you and
Yep,
everyone else.
yep.
So, but they're only good for 5 years. A lot of the newer models they're coming out with now are going to have a 10-year warranty on them now, which is great. But they, like I said, for now, a lot of the homes, I'll just have the 5 years in there. There is a date code on the back of them.
Oh.
I would check the date code, and you know that would tell you exactly how old they are. Again, it's the test these. When you hit the test button on these, all you're testing is the alarm.
Oh my.
It doesn't test the sensor. So people think, oh, I hit the button, it works. Well, yeah,
That's not true.
the alarm works, but the sensor doesn't.
Oh my goodness.
And now I know you just said one thing to me, which I'm going to have to correct on you, but
That's okay, please do.
you said you had yours in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Worst place to put one.
Great.
So you don't want to keep a CO detector in the kitchen. There's a metal sensor in here, and it pretty much attracts like any food, like grease or anything you're cooking on the stove. It'll plug that sensor up within a month.
So I'm pretty sure that my sensor, that my CO is going in the garbage, this one's going up, and I'm going to be buying how many more for my house?
You want to get, I mean, Amanda's Law only requires one per house.
Well, forget what it requires,
So-
because that's like the basic minimum.
Right, but to be safe, we want to see one on every floor. Again, if you can afford to do it, put one in every bedroom, and then one in the living room, and then one in the basement, somewhere around the furnace. So that's what you want to do, but you really want one on every floor.
Wow, including the basement.
Including the basement.
Including the basement.
Yeah, a lot of people will buy them, they put it in the basement only, but their bedroom's 2 stories up. You're not going to hear this from 2 stories up in the middle of the night. You're sound asleep. Especially with carbon monoxide, and you're going to feel tired and groggy anyway.
So maybe if people are feeling tired and groggy and a little, because I was reading on your website all the different symptoms from that as well, maybe some of those things could be from carbon monoxide, and especially in the wintertime. In the summer we open the windows so it's not as prevalent, but in the wintertime, and especially the way they're making new houses, they jam them up with insulation, and they're shut tight, and we're not getting any air.
No ventilation, and that's why carbon monoxide is on the rise right now. And these homes are so airtight that nothing is escaping out, so that's definitely a good point.
So I'm thinking when I first got mine, they probably said first floor. I'm scanning my brain while you're sharing. First floor, because it's not the basement, it's not the second floor, it's kind of in the middle, closer to the basement door, which is the kitchen, is near my basement door, which is right across from the stove. So I'm sure mine is pretty clogged up.
Yep.
You might be saving my life today.
Hope so.
Wow.
So we're going to fix that right now. You're going to take this one home.
Yes, that's a beautiful bag. As a matter of fact, I know that you've caught a couple shots of it too, that there are t-shirts, and I have my little band on. I see you have your band on to always remember Amanda, and I love what you put on here, live, laugh, and love. Because, and I'm wondering if you can be, as hard as this is, an encouragement to other people too, because what do you do when tragic things happen like this? There's nothing you can do to change it, And you can get so many people, I'm telling you, I know people firsthand who are sunk, who can't get past their grief. What can you say to them to encourage them?
It's, you know, it's tough. I mean, it took a phone call, you know, like I said, from Amanda's teacher to get me to wake up and realize what I need to do. Actually went to a group therapy meeting once, and I met a gentleman whose son passed away. He overdosed, and he said, "How do you do it?" And I said, "You know, I found a reason to continue to keep Amanda's name alive." And I suggested that to him, and I said, "Your son died of, you know, from overdose. You need to stop that, you know." And he's actually been working on laws now to, you know, to help stop, you know, the drug problem that's going on. So a lot of the stuff that you see going on in Buffalo right now with the drug laws and all that, this guy is a part of it. And you know, I still get a letter. We still stay in touch, and you know, he just thanks me all the time for helping him find the strength to remember his son. And that's what it comes down to, is just remembering your child. And like, I'm not ready to say goodbye to Amanda yet. And that's why this foundation is so important to me, and it's what keeps me going. So I'm going to fight for as long as I can with this foundation to keep it alive and to keep Amanda alive. I'm not going to say goodbye to her yet.
That's beautiful.